Hi there, this is Doug Zanes. Thank you for tuning into my weekly radio show. Today I want to talk a little bit about how to file a property damage claim with your insurance company if your vehicle's been in a car accident and has been damaged, but you haven't been hurt. And the reason I say but you haven't been hurt is because if you're hurt, well, it's relatively easy to find the help of an attorney who's willing to handle your personal injury case and maybe assist with the property damage. But maybe not, and we'll talk about that a little bit too. So let's talk about property damage. First, I think it's important that if you're listening to this, you understand that if you look at your own auto insurance policy, you need to make sure that you have both collision coverage and comprehensive coverage. And they're two different things. And so keep in mind when if you call up your insurance company or an insurance agent and you only want to purchase the minimum insurance you need to be legal, that doesn't include collision coverage for your vehicle or comprehensive coverage. And it doesn't include what's called gap coverage. And I'll talk about all those a little bit. Collision coverage is what pays to fix your vehicle if it's been damaged in an accident, and either that accident's your fault. Let's say you accidentally run into a wall. You didn't intend to, it's just an accident. Your collision coverage will, one, pay to fix your vehicle. Now you're going to have to pay the deductible on that, so it's important you get an affordable deductible for you, whether it's $250 or $500 or whatever that may be. But your collision coverage will also pay to fix the wall that your car just ran over. So if you don't have collision coverage, you don't have anything to pay to fix your vehicle, number one. And number two, you don't have anybody to pay to fix the property that you damaged. Which is important, because if that's an expensive cost, which in lots of cases it is, then you're on the hook for it personally, and you have to worry about getting sued by either someone else's insurance company or whoever owns that property because you're responsible for it. That's what collision coverage is for. If you caused an accident. Now, if you didn't cause it, if somebody ran into your car and it was their fault, but they have no auto insurance, then again, it's that collision coverage that will pay to fix your vehicle. So you don't have any hassles. You don't have to worry about it. Comprehensive coverage pays you for your vehicle if it gets stolen. If your vehicle is damaged in a flood, quite honestly, which you'd say, well, how's that happen? And surprisingly, it does. We've had it happen once over the years in our family. We live in Tucson, Arizona, at least part of the year, part of each month. And in Tucson, we get monsoon rains in July. And when it really rains hard in Tucson, because it doesn't rain a lot in Arizona, but the streets don't have great drainage. And you have these areas in Tucson where the water actually gets very deep. And years ago, a family member was driving through an intersection, and it's just a normal intersection actually, and the water, was deep, probably about 3 feet deep, and they didn't realize it. And so once they got in it, the car quit running, and then the water flowed into the car, and there's a huge amount of damage to that vehicle. From an expense standpoint to fix, $20,000 plus, if I remember right. But we had comprehensive coverage, so the insurance coverage paid to fix it. So if it gets stolen, if it gets flooded out, if something weird, like a tree falls on it, that's what comprehensive collision coverage covers. If for some reason it catches on fire, that's what covers it. So if you have collision coverage, but for whatever reason don't have comprehensive coverage, and one of those other things happens, then you're not covered. Gap coverage is very important for people who own vehicles. If you lease a vehicle, it doesn't matter, or you're not going to have it generally. The car dealership that owns the vehicle that you leased will have gap coverage in place, and and so you don't need it. But if you buy a vehicle, what happens is, as we all know, you may owe more on that vehicle than it's worth. So if your vehicle's worth $10,000, but you owe 12, and your vehicle is totaled in a car accident, so it can't, the insurance company isn't going to fix it, so they're just going to write you a check for the value of the vehicle. The problem is they write a check for $10,000, and if you owe 12, well, now you don't have enough money to pay off what you owe, let alone get another vehicle. And so, you need gap coverage. Used to be, I think dealerships would typically offer it to you when you bought a vehicle. Nowadays, I don't think they do a lot of the time. And so you need to be aware of gap coverage and what it is, and you need to ask about it when you're buying a vehicle. And if it's not available, then you need to go online or find an insurance company to sell you gap coverage. And it's generally very inexpensive, but that's what it is. So because where you don't want to end up is owing somebody an extra $2,000 just to pay off your vehicle in an accident that wasn't your fault. So you need it. It's very important. If you own a vehicle. I noticed, for example, when I got my last vehicle, I didn't take advantage of this because I leased the vehicle, but through USAA, who's my insurance carrier, they now offer some sort of property damage rider, for lack of a better way to put it. And what it is, and I just glanced at it, but if I understood it right, if I owned a vehicle, I purchased this rider as part of my insurance, and my vehicle was totaled, they not only pay the value of the vehicle, but they'll pay an extra 20% on top of the value of the vehicle to me. And again, that's not gap coverage. It's important to understand that. You still want to get gap coverage. But what that is they'll pay that extra 20%, I believe, at least this is my opinion, so you have some additional money to then go put a down payment on or buy a new vehicle. So even if you don't need the gap coverage, or if you've got the gap coverage and everything's paid off, you look at it this way, you're even, but you still need a new car. And so if you've got to go put a down payment on a new car, but all you can get is even, well, where do you get the money to put that down payment on the new car? And that's what I think this new rider program through USA kind of addresses, which is kind of a neat deal. I mean, I don't know how much it was or any of that because I didn't get it, but my guess is, like with insurance, it's generally affordable. And so that's why that's how the property damage coverages tend to lay out and why they're important. And then you've got one other thing is rental coverage. Again, lots of people don't buy rental coverage because it's expensive, and I get that all of this is simply, the cost is an important piece of it. But if you can afford rental coverage, the advantage of rental coverage is if you're in an accident that you've caused, either while you're trying to get your property damage taken care of and get paid for your vehicle, or while it's getting fixed. I mean, I've seen vehicles take a month to get fixed. You at least have a vehicle to drive because you have rental coverage on your insurance policy. So they'll put you in a rental car, and now you can get to and from work and do what you've got to do. If you don't have rental coverage and the accident's your fault, and you don't have another car to drive, you're stuck. You got to figure out how to deal with not having a car. If somebody else hits your vehicle and they don't have insurance, and so you have to go through your insurance and you don't have rental coverage, again, you're in that same situation. So I think rental coverage is important if you can afford it as part of your insurance policy. Because again, the mistake that I see people make, that I've seen them make over the years, especially with when they have a relatively inexpensive car. Let's say they've got an older vehicle, a lot of mileage on it, maybe only worth a couple $1,000s. They decide, hey, I don't need collision coverage. I don't care if this thing gets totaled. I mean, I'm not going to buy collision coverage on a 12-year-old car with 150,000 miles on it. And when they realize that was a bad decision is when they're in an accident and there isn't anybody there to pay them for that vehicle or to pay to fix that vehicle. And now they have no vehicle and no way to get a new vehicle. That's the challenge. So it's all relative. It all depends on your situation. If you're in a situation where it's not a big deal, you've got that same car, but you've got plenty of money to just go out and get a new one tomorrow if you need to. If this one were to get totaled, then yeah, you probably don't need it, and you just chalk it up and pretty much just get rid of that car. But most people that I encounter aren't in that situation. I mean, they need their car, and they run into problems when they don't have collision coverage. And I would guess, I don't know, so I'm not an insurance agent, but I would guess that comprehensive and collision coverage on an older vehicle with a lot of mileage that isn't worth a lot is probably relatively inexpensive in the grand scheme of things. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, how do you make a property damage claim? I mean, quite honestly, it's really easy. You pick up the phone and you call your insurance company if you have auto insurance and you have collision coverage. And that's the key. I mean, if you have collision coverage and your car is somehow damaged in an accident, if it's your fault, but even if it's someone else's fault and they're responsible, you still need to pick up the phone, call your insurance company, and open a claim. And quite honestly, what I've always done with my insurance company when I found myself in that situation is I've said, well, to them, you guys need to start fixing my vehicle. You guys need to put me into a rental car. The other person's insurance company who's at fault for this, you also need to start to deal with them to get reimbursed for what you're paying. But I don't want to wait around for the other driver's insurance company to do their investigation and mess around with this for the next week or 10 days or however long it takes them. You need to take care of me because I'm your client and I'm your insured and I've got these coverages. And no problem, they have. But you have to take that, you have to handle it that way, in my opinion. Because if you don't, if you call up your insurance company, say, hey, I was in an accident, it wasn't my fault, it was the other driver's fault, my car's been wrecked, what do you think I ought to do? They're going to tell you that you need to go through the other driver's insurance company. They're going to try to pass the buck. And I've had clients tell me, that their insurance company just flat out told them, oh, okay, yeah, the accident wasn't your fault, so the other driver's insurance company needs to take care of all of this, so you need to call them, we'll open the claim, but there isn't anything that we need to do for you. And they've kind of passed them off. And that's 100% wrong. They need to take care of it for you. And the reality of it is yeah, if they, if they take care of getting your vehicle fixed, and you get to the point where your vehicle's done and you need to pick it up, they need to write the check to pay the body shop for fixing your vehicle, and you'll have to pay the deductible. That's certainly true. But if the other driver had insurance, and you start going down that path, meaning through your insurance company, what happens in every case quite honestly, that I can think of, that we've worked on, which is thousands, by the time your vehicle is fixed, if the at-fault driver's insurance company is going to kind of accept the claim and accept responsibility, by the time you've gotten to the place where your vehicle's fixed, they will have already stepped in and taken everything over. So then you're not going to have to pay a deductible. You'll just be able to get your car. And generally they'll step in and take care of the rental as well, because they know if they don't step in, they're ultimately going to have to pay your insurance company back for what they've paid anyways. And they're going to have to pay you your deductible back anyways. Now, if you start down the road of working with your insurance company and it turns out the other driver didn't have insurance coverage, well, at least you're moving in the direction you need to do to get your vehicle taken care of. If it turns out the other driver does have insurance but they're going to fight you, well, that's okay, because your insurance company is taking care of fixing your vehicle and they've got you in a rental and it's all moving down the road the way it's supposed to, and all you have to worry about is paying your deductible. And eventually, when the fight shakes out between the two insurance companies, your insurance company is able to help you get your deductible back, then you'll get your deductible back. And I would continue to stay on top of my insurance company, even if they've paid for everything, the vehicle's fixed, I'm out of the rental, I've paid my deductible. and they're fighting with the other insurance company for months or for, let's say, a year, I would stay on top of the adjuster on my claim and my insurance company regarding my deductible, because that's how you're going to get it back. If the two insurance companies fight, and a lot of times what happens is these insurance companies have what's called an intercompany arbitration, where they have an arbitration, and an arbitrator decides who's at fault for this and who should pay. But that happens a ways down the road, and that's where they would get you your deductible back if you stay on top of them. Now, if you don't stay on top of them, they forget about your deductible, and your insurance company gets the money back that they paid to fix the vehicle, but they forget about your deductible. So you've got to stay on that. So that's the way I would go about it. Now, if you don't have collision coverage on your vehicle, and the accident was someone else's fault, well, then you have no choice but to go through their insurance company. So you've got to get all of their insurance information at the time of the accident. And you've really got to get the insurance information. I would get a copy of their insurance card anytime I'm in an accident, or at the very least want to see it. So you see who their insurance company is. You can write down the name of the insurance company, their policy number, the insured's full name, their address, all the information off the card. And we have far too many clients call us, or potential clients call us, who have like a name and a phone number of the driver that hit them, and that's all they have. And they're calling us because now the driver that hit them won't even return their phone calls. And the problem is there's not a whole lot that even an attorney can do with that for you. So you need to get all that information. Then you want to call the other driver's insurance company, open a claim. They're going to want to investigate the claim. They're probably going to drag their feet a little bit and be a little more difficult to deal with you, because they know they don't have to worry about you going through your insurance company because you don't have collision coverage. So they know they're never going to have to pay anybody back. And they also know if you haven't been hurt, you only have a property damage claim, and they want to screw with you and deny liability, that you're going to have a hard time finding an attorney to help you because you weren't hurt. So you don't have a personal injury claim, you only have a property damage claim. And insurance companies do play that game. And so, that's how you do it, though, because you don't have your insurance company to make your claim through. Now, if you don't have collision coverage and you're at fault for the accident, you're out of luck. Or the driver that hit you doesn't have insurance coverage, you're stuck because there's no insurance policy out there to pay you. You can always go personally sue or bring a lawsuit against the person who's at fault. Let's say they were uninsured, but they're at fault, and get a judgment against them. But in my experience, judgments are great, but if somebody doesn't have money to collect, there's nothing to collect from them. So you put in a lot of work and a lot of effort and get very little out of it. But that's another option that you have. Is you can go bring that lawsuit against the at-fault party who's uninsured and get a judgment against them. You're probably going to have to do that again on your own, most likely. I mean, it's generally hard to find an attorney to help you on that because there's no way for the attorney to get paid. It doesn't make sense to pay an attorney $10,000 in legal fees over a $5,000 property damage claim. And so those are the basic ins and outs. I hope that's helpful to whoever's listening to this. If you've got any questions, you can certainly email me at dzanes@zaneslaw.com. You guys have a great day.